Yes, it's another lovely Thursday, and it's time for our regular constant podcast, Truth to Power, the podcast where we highlight persecution of minority groups in Nigeria, most especially Christians, and all of this happening in all parts of Nigeria. My name is Ehis Agbon, and today on the program, like always, we shall be giving you an update in respect of security and attacks on minority groups in Nigeria, and also spotlighting on the northeastern part of Nigeria where so much has happened. I have two guests. One is Masara Kim. He's calling us from the hotbed of it all, which is Jos Plateau State. We are linking up to him. Masara Kim, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ehis, and it's great to be here again. And my greetings and sincere appreciations to members of the audience for always being with us.
All right, and also we have XYZ. Is someone that would also be giving us an update on the program. Because on the program, yes, the fact that we want to highlight all of these issues, we should also not expose our partners and those that are giving us information to undue attack and persecution. So we'll keep his name at XYZ, just like last week when we had an XYZ from Kafancha also contributing to us. And in the course of the program, if we can get Barrister Sunday from Adamawa, we'll also have him to give us some legal perspective to what we are talking about. And not forgetting too that for members of the public that would want to call into the podcast, the number to call is 0809-799-1989. My name is Ehis Agbon, and this program is proudly supported by Truth Nigeria. It's a website where we are just telling you the truth, the way it is, factual information about what is happening in Nigeria. And of course, you can get there by going to www.truthnigeria.com. All right, let me give you a little background in respect of persecution in Northeast Nigeria. Northeastern Nigeria, geopolitically, have these states. We have Borno State, we have Yobe State, we have Gombe State, we have Bauchi State, and Adamawa State. Some would also add Benue State to it, because if you look at the flank of the Nigerian map, that's where you'd also see Benue State. These are all states that constitute that part of Nigeria. Of course, Benue State and even Adamawa State most of the time are categorized as the middle belt states or the north central states. But looking at the map of Nigeria, the geography of Nigeria, you'll see that they are located in the region that is called the northeastern part of Nigeria. And since the persecution of Christians started in Nigeria, I would say states in those regions are the ones that have beared the brunt, and it's rather unfortunate. Right from the days in the 80s when we have the Maitasine and the others, even up to the 90s, and recently when we have Boko Haram, all of this, I would say, started from the northeastern part of Nigeria. Though presently today they are almost in all parts of Nigeria, but unfortunately the Christian minority groups in Nigeria are the ones that are bearing the brunt. And today on the program, we will be looking at how it got this bad and what would be the hope of Christians that are domiciled in these states and in this region of Nigeria. And I just want our guest XYZ to give us a little about Northeast Nigeria and how bad the situation of persecution of minority groups and Christian groups has been in that part of Nigeria. All right, XYZ.
Thank you so much, Ehis. It's quite a pleasure, speaking about such a topical issue here. I will leave the history of all of this to the historians, but will, however, dwell on the current day realities. Today, when you look at the crisis in the Northeast, the abduction of schoolgirls, the attacks on communities, very vulnerable communities, by the way, the deprivations that ensue, who are the people who are now kept in IDPs. You will know that indeed things are not so well and things are not so right. I remember not too long ago, just about 2 years ago, there was a news report from Borno, the Maiduguri, the capital, the Borno state capital. A group of persons working on building their church. The church was demolished, I think, or burnt down by terrorists in the full-fledged war of that insurgency. And this particular church, persons were there trying to rebuild it back, and a conversation ensued between one of the builders, some of these builders, and people who were passing by, taunting them and all. And before long, a gunshot has happened, and a corpse was at hand. The camp chairman responded to that issue. You could also see the governor move quickly to wade into the issue. However, I must tell you, like most other concerns like this, there are no persecutions. When you consider the abduction of girls that have been taken into custody, if the names of somebody like Leah Sharibu today was not known, was not mentioned, somebody would have mistaken all the names of some of these young girls that are being taken captive and married off like a modern day kind of a slavery. Rights of children denied, rights of women denied, and for what? The entire reasons are not far-fetched from faith, beliefs, creed, and race. So the situation is indeed pathetic. There are again very clear indicators again when you look at governance systems and structures across some of these spaces. Are you likely to find people transiting in terms of education, especially girls, young boys from such communities, and then especially girls again, transiting from basic secondary to post-secondary, that is tertiary education? Is it that easy for people in these climes? Are there challenges? Are there restrictions? Certainly no. Well, when you look at the structure of northern Nigeria, while Nigeria continues to be a secular state in terms of what the provisions of the Constitution says, in northern Nigeria, there is always this element of a religion of state. The dates when public holidays are known, the Emirates, the traditional institutions as we have them are also designed to suppress minority groups, to suppress also that culture, their identity, and also their beliefs. This situation is rippling across the northern Nigeria, but when you travel towards the northeast particularly, it's so prevalent, especially in states like Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, and also in parts, Bauchi. So in all, minority rights are not upheld. You look at the composition of who gets into government. You look at the representation of some of these voices. You look at the participatory spaces for them to really engage and advocate for issues that concerns them. The truth is, there is really nothing at all for these people to enjoy. And the wake of all of this terrorism have brought these people to the point of being so impoverished. Their families could be small, they could be large, they could most of the time be able to work together around family livelihoods, And now most of them, if agriculture is a mainstay, they cannot farm at the moment. They are still trying to, find their way scoring through, internally displaced persons camps and what have you. So the governance systems and structure in itself is that skewed. Despite the fact that Nigeria is a secular state, you would go across some of these spaces and find that there are two types of laws that exist. There is a Sharia code law, and there is also the customary or magistrate law, as the case may be, which is subscribing to all. But technically, again, you wonder what it is that is lacking in the customary law that will have accommodated the Sharia legal system. Notwithstanding, as swift as some of these legal systems have been set up, the idea that these legal systems were going to make the communities more law-abiding or become a deterrent to perpetrating crime has not been realized, because politicians from these areas, even the politicians that are interested in having such legal codes and system exist, have not exposed their corruption cases, have not allowed or subscribed their corruption cases be tried under such legal systems. So in essence, there is a politics of religion. There is also the politics of ethnicity. There is a politics of deprivation. But most importantly is that there is an elitist system, within the space that actually ensures that minority voices do not get to have their day and do not get to have their say, and certainly will never get to have their way until the systems are actually fine-tuned to improve participation of all. Let me stop here so that I can also come back to respond to some of the questions that you may have for me in the future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so very much, XYZ, for your contributions. As I will briefly want to go to Jos Plateau State, the present epicenter of persecution of Christians, to get an update from Masara Kim. You recall that on the last edition of the program, Masara Kim gave us a security alert, and sadly, again, it came out just the way it was given to us. Is it that our security agencies are not listening to the security alerts, or what? They get this heads up, and yet these terrorists will still come in, do whatever they want to do, and most often they're not still good scot-free. But thankfully, with the alert that's coming out from Truth Nigeria, I think communities are beginning to stand up. I'll go over now to Masara Kim to bring us up to speed in respect of what's happening in Jos Plateau State. Masara Kim, over to you.
Right, Ehis, thank you again. I would quickly like to apologize that I'm on transit, returning from a battle site, the site of a fierce battle that ensued between civilian volunteer watchers 42 miles southeast of Jos, the capital of Plateau State. Yesterday, it was a full-blown war, as described by the mayor, or rather the village, the district head of Mangun, the district where the battle actually ensued. Okay, so we did talk about the possibility of this attack or of these attacks on this program precisely on this day last week, and we did say that terrorists were planning the murder of all attacks in the communities bordering Bokos County from the southwest rather of Mangu, and Mangun district happens to be one of them. Now, the attacks, which were initially planned for the 22nd and 23rd, which was the Saturday and Sunday last week, did not eventually hold. They were rather shifted, and they eventually occurred started a day for yesterday, which was the 25th, lasting through to the 26th, which was yesterday, or if I'm not mistaken, actually. So throughout yesterday, they actually came, according to locals. I'm just, like I said, just coming back from Pantilong, where, I mean, the precise battleground located on the south of Mangun district in the Boko, in the Mangu County. So according to locals, there were more than 2,000 terrorists armed with assault rifles, submachine guns, and long machine guns, who apparently came determined to take out the more than 2,000 residents of Pantilong village in the Mangun district. But the resilience and the courage of the civilian watchers, who were only armed with hunting rifles and homemade single-shot guns, kind of prevented them from achieving their goals. Sadly, 2 members of the watch group, of the vigilante group, were killed.
All right, we just wait a sec for the connection to be back. You are listening to the podcast, Truth to Power. All right, Masara Kim is back now. All right, Masara Kim.
Yeah, sadly, 2 members of the vigilante group that battled these more than 2,000 armed terrorists were killed, and there are several others. I think there are about 9 being treated for critical injuries in a hospital in Jos, and there are about 6 currently being treated at the local hospital in the Mangu town. So this is exactly what happened. It looks like without the advance warning that Truth Nigeria gave out, and of course on his website and on this program, the Christian residents, numbering more than 2,000 in this Pantilong community, could have been eliminated. But again, because the advance warning came in roughly a week earlier, residents were able to prepare for self-defense and to also evacuate women, children, and the elderly. So I think that the advance warnings that we are giving out on this program on Truth to Power and also Truth Nigeria website is helping a lot to save lives, as attested to by community leaders and members, or leaders rather, of the vigilante units that worked tirelessly throughout the night of day for yesterday and yesterday to ward off this mass attack. And right now I don't have any information as to when next an attack is likely to occur. But again, when I do have anything, I will be sure to share with members of the audience, both through Truth Nigeria. Of course, Truth Nigeria has always, been ahead of every other news outlets. I think all over the world, in terms of giving out early warning alerts and also advanced warnings of attacks. And together as a team, we are not giving up. Regardless of any challenges and obstacles, we are not backing down, in trying to ensure that these things are done. The reason is that the military and the government is insincere and complicit in a way, because like you said, these warnings are given out, but they don't act at all. Like I personally, 3 days ago rather, sent out text messages to the leadership, the authorities, the military authorities and the police authorities in Plateau State, notifying them of plans by terrorists to attack this very, very community. But they didn't do anything about it. So it looks like exclusively giving this information to the military and police is not helping. Rather, it is important to continuously put the information out in the public so that residents, vigilantes, and community members can take action when necessary.
Thank you so very much for the update, Masara Kim. I'll come back to XYZ now. XYZ, you had some of these expositions from Masara Kim, and the fact that these alerts come out through not just citizen journalists, people in the communities, community watch and community guards. These alerts come out, and you can imagine if Truth to Power as a podcast can get the information and put it out there, and also Truth Nigeria putting it out there, our security agents seem to be a little bit slow to act. What do you think exactly is the problem? XYZ, over to you.
Well, let me say people who should know better, people who have been at that level of decision making, have alluded to collusion between the armed forces and the members of the mob, committing these crimes against the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state. But do you find the willingness of our officers, of authorities, really wanting to uphold the provisions of the Constitution? Do you see them doing their best to ensure that the lives of and property of the Nigerian people is their top priority? The response time for most of these attacks have been very abysmally poor. They have been, the only excuse that there could be to them is just also the fact that they are delayed just so that the kind of carnage we get to record and witness is achieved. Because if there is anything contrary to that, I would say that the performance in our budgets for the past 8 years have shown that trillions have been expended on security. The fact again that the former president left office, and I've said that patrolling and safeguarding the territorial borders of Nigeria is nearly impossible. So that coming from the commander-in-chief of the armed forces also tells you how vulnerable defenseless communities in the Nigerian state are, of course, becoming. And also with the ECOWAS protocol around nomadic activities and also the free grazing spaces that were or regulations that were allowing for, that also allows for vandalism. Let me also say that the administration of justice, even at community level, is so weak and nearly ineffective and certainly not efficient enough. So the situation is still pointing towards government, because indeed the people have offered that right of monopoly of violence to be exercised on their behalf by the state. So in this situation now, where the state is still struggling with whether to allow for gun rights or even talk about, look, there is even no risk communication at all, Mr. Ehis, from authorities to these communities about what may happen and also how they should respond, even in the midst of all of that challenge. Governors become helpless in the situation as this, and certainly the entire book is again as to what the federal government will continue to do in responding to some of these threats and issues. That is for me where the book lies.
All right, thank you so very much, XYZ. As we look at all of these issues. Meanwhile, I'd like to point you once again to the Truth Nigeria website, where we have the latest stories in respect of persecution of minority groups in Nigeria. Truth Nigeria, you can, of course, visit the website by going to www.truthnigeria.com. And on the website, you get the latest information in respect of happenings in Nigeria. Factual, truthful news. That's all Truth Nigeria is all about. And of course, looking at persecution of minority groups by terrorist groups. And of course, how people can generally go about protecting and defending themselves. And not forgetting too that it gives the world an opportunity to have a glimpse into what is exactly happening in Nigeria. You are listening to Truth to Power, a podcast that is designed to highlight persecution of minority groups in Nigeria and also give them a heads up in respect of how they can take charge and take care of themselves and their lives. Sadly, Masara Kim seemed to be out for now, and I'm sure, like, if those that have been following us from the beginning, you notice he's in transit, and we know how network can be when one is driving along the highways in Nigeria. Coming back to XYZ now, and also looking at what you think the individuals, the communities can proactively do to change the tide.
Sincerely, communities will need to be very keen and interested in reorganizing themselves, setting up the kind of community governance structures that really is able to appreciate threats, work around the vulnerability and also the capabilities of these communities, and then importantly, help develop early warning systems. I know that, again, talking about early warning systems is the reason why the speaker of this program is also being able to find out and also share ahead of time, issues that incidences could occur, and then they seem not to disappoint at all, that they still happen despite prompting authorities, security institutions, and agencies. The understanding that when these attacks are happening, in some instances, you find security personnel recalled from where they are, and then just at the peak of when they have left their stations or points, these attacks will happen, and then they are replaced, they are returned back there with no successes, around arrest. So communities now are at the crossroad.
Thank you so very much, XYZ, for coming out for us this evening. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And I believe that the authorities, they are listening. And of course, the citizens are also listening, watching, and following. Truth Nigeria is a regular podcast that comes up every Thursday here on Precision Radio and Television. And you can always listen to us and watch us and get a head start and latest information in respect of persecution of minority groups in Nigeria. Don't forget, too, that on the program Truth to Power, we reach out to different communities and get experts' opinions on things that are happening. Today, we basically looked at some parts of the Northeast where I would say it has been happening for a long time. And have they run out of power? No, they have not. Have they run out of firepower? No, they have not. Well, we'll keep on praying for people, residents in this minority group, minority areas, and hoping and believing that someday, sometime, with our prayers and of course with work on their side, we'll be able to overcome. My name is Ehis Agbon. On Sunday will be a rerun of this podcast. Meanwhile, next week from 7 p.m. on Thursday, let us meet again to look at what is happening in Nigeria, most especially within and around the persecuted group. Believing that next week would be better. Always I would say, go placidly amid the haste and noise, and remember what truth there may be in silence. As far as possible without surrender, speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others too. Even the dull and the ignorant, they too have their stories. Keep shining like a star that you are. You have a pleasant night rest.